You're listening to Femfluence Radio, created for women desiring more influence and affluence and are looking for other women who want the same. I'm your host, Jennifer Kemp, but you can call me Jen. I'm a serial entrepreneur and founder who's built 4 multi-million-dollar companies. I'm also a mom to 3 amazing humans and a wifey to the self-proclaimed slay-at-home dad. Whoa, that makes me tired just saying out loud. On this show, we'll have the real BS-free conversations that every woman wants to have, but no one's talking about with the honesty we deserve. We'll chat on the intersection of too muchness and not enoughness, what aligned success looks and feels like, and what it takes to dismantle old systems, beliefs, and thinking that get in the way of what we really want. If you're an ambitious woman looking for a collective that will support you as you grow into the next level leader you and everyone else knows, likes, and trusts, then stick around because you're already home and amongst friends. Now, let's go build longer tables together. Many women I know, and me included, were taught at a young age that it's commendable to be ambitious and to be the best you can be. I got that message growing up, and I'm sure many of you did as well. I also got the message to expect to have a tidy household, to make sure my future husband felt manly and to be more feminine, and to not trust anyone outside of my family, really. Talk about confusing communication. The message to be the best you can be for young girls has been a huge smack in the face as we grow older. Because even though many strides have happened over the years, this message has limitations based on gender, and even more so if you're a BIWOC. Ambitious men are supported, encouraged, and recognized for their achievements, whereas ambitious women are often viewed negatively. Their right to reach advanced status is sometimes denied, and their motives are often questioned. Ambitious women are sometimes seen as nasty, self-serving, and unlikable. Now, I'm certainly not immune or not guilty of this. In past episodes, I spoke of how being bullied affected my relationships with women. Basically, I became a feminist who wanted to prove women wrong. I was so angry at girls and women that that's the person I was moving into my early 20s and mid 30s. That's weird, right? But not so weird, because what I really wanted was to find a posse of women who had the same ambition to change the world together with me. That's also why I created Femfluence, to reframe what ambition means and how to navigate upward mobility in a healthy yet dynamic way. In fact, I recently went to a retreat for women where I thought I belonged. It was actually amazing. I had never been around so many women. I don't know if you've ever heard the saying that, you can have about 10 women at a time, but if you have more than that, pink slime basically starts to happen. And it was such an incredible event. I was so impressed with the way the host had curated activities and adventures and conversations in such a deep and meaningful way. So much so, I gave this particular retreat a glowing review. And after the fact, I found out that it was not as it appeared, because that person also expected, because they had done that at their event, for me to do the same. And whenever you do something with the expectation of taking instead of the expectation of giving, it puts a sour taste in the other person's mouth. And we tend to do that with women. We tend to say, if I give you, you must give me back. And I want to change that conversation around ambitious women, that we can be ambitious and just be ambitious, right? We don't have to always look for the expectation on the other side. And so every time I'm confronted with those types of things, I mainly look at myself and ask myself, how am I showing up? How am I being unapologetic about my ambition and being clear on what my needs are? Well, there's a lot of facts to back up why this continues to be a struggle. Many high-profile women seem to have a complicated relationship with ambition too. I don't know if you ever heard Savannah Guthrie. She's the Today Show host. She made a comment at Real Simple and Times Women in Success event back in 2015 that, quote, She hates the word ambition and thinks it's impolite, because what that means is she's saying it's indicative of the negative nuances we as women associate with power and ambition. Guthrie defines her own ambition as not wanting to fail. I think that's crazy that she defines her own ambition as not wanting to fail. Like, basically, she's always feeling like that's her goal. I think it's fascinating. I wonder how she felt about Matt Lauer as her showmate for all those years. It's so fascinating to see these power dynamics. And I also think it's massively sad that we have to downplay a damn word like ambition to make other people comfortable with our desire to achieve massive success in our lives. So where does our discomfort with ambition come from? Clearly, gender bias and stereotypes play an important role, and our society tends to be overly critical of powerful and ambitious women. In one New York Times opinion piece, the author notes that although women have made some progress in reaching powerful positions in the political and corporate world, progress is not inevitable, though, nor is it fixed. This country has a complicated relationship with powerful women. They have to keep proving themselves over and over again, being twice or more as good, and dragging one woman through the process doesn't make it easier for those who follow. Whew! I don't know about y'all, but those are, truer words have never been written as far as I'm concerned. Another article in Fortune speaks how former presidential candidates Carly Fiorina and Hillary Clinton were measured against the conventional idea of female behavior, with Clinton labeled as overbearing and shrill. Now, regardless of your politics, these women's main problem for other women especially was that they didn't know their place. And that's sad, because ambitious women deserve our praise, not our disdain. They possess the drive and tenacity to step up despite personal and professional obstacles. And while we may not agree with their mission, support their politics, or share their values, we should applaud their persistence. Because for ambitious women, like their male counterparts, women have had a powerful impact on this world. And without their ambition, we wouldn't have things like, for example, Marie Curie, who pursued her love of physics and chemistry to win 2 Nobel Peace Prizes, and Amelia Earhart, one of the most famous women in the 20th century, who never let anything hold her back. As a pilot, as somebody who rode solo in her plane. Wilma Rudolph, who was striving for accomplishment in the face of adversity. She was the first American woman to win 3 Olympic gold medals in track and field. And she also helped the world make, a better place. Margaret Thatcher, often called the Iron Lady due to her uncompromising leadership style, was the first female prime minister in Great Britain and changed the British economic and political landscape. Our girl Oprah Winfrey, the world's first Black billionaire, shaped American culture and media. And to this day, we care about what Oprah thinks about everything. Most recently, Misty Copeland, who was always outspoken about her ambition, became the first African-American female principal dancer at New York's American Ballet Theater, setting the stage for all talented women of color to follow suit. It was a long time coming, right? But still, though, as a result of the biases that exist, ambitious women struggle with likability. According to a peer-reviewed study highlighted in Harvard Business Review, high-achieving women experience social backlash because their very success, and specifically the behaviors that created that success, violates our expectations about how women are supposed to behave. Women are expected to be nice, warm, friendly, and nurturing. Thus, if a woman acts assertively or competitively, if she pushes her team to perform, if she exhibits decisive and forceful leadership, she is deviating from the social script that dictates how she should behave. And by violating beliefs about what women are like, successful women elicit pushback from others for being insufficiently feminine and too masculine. As descriptions like Ice Queen and Ballbuster and Feminazi can attest, we are deeply uncomfortable with powerful, ambitious women. Now, that's the words from that Harvard Business Review article. But wow, it's true. It's true. And you know what's even truer? We women can change that together. So far, high-achieving women have been paid high prices for owning their ambition. Besides being labeled as nasty, which, hey, you can call me nasty anytime, they don't get promoted and may even get fired for doing what is necessary to get ahead. What's weird is men are rewarded for doing the same things. Women who own their own businesses to compete sometimes block out other women because there's a perception that there's room for only a few. So you notice that they create alliances with other men and a few quote unquote good women so that they can retain their position. Have you seen that? Have you seen that around you? And if you're listening and you recognize that maybe you were thinking that, girlfriend, it's a societal thing. You might be running on autopilot to survive what society expects of us. That's called pink slime. Pink slime is created because ambition is seen as a negative thing, not a positive, healthy way to approach success. Embracing one's ambition is not for the faint of heart, though. I get it. Competing in a man's world is challenging for even the most determined woman. If we exhibit assertive behavior and declare our ambition, we're often scorned due to societal expectations and gender and racial stereotypes. Some of us discover that our ambition loses steam when we're in direct competition with men. Our behavior changes, our confidence is challenged, and we assume a more subordinate role. We may be more uncomfortable with the rules of the game as men are the ones that are defining most of them. There was a recent article in New York Magazine that refers to a survey of men and women in the workplace conducted by Bain & Company that found that women and men were equally ambitious when they had fewer than 2 years on the job. But those ambitions changed dramatically among mid-career employees. Women's aspiration to make it to the C-suite dropped 60%. Their confidence in their ability to reach top management drops in half, and their ambition never recovers as they become senior leaders within their firms. Men, on the other hand, see a smaller dip in their confidence and none, zero, in their ambition. The explanation given in this article for women's loss of ambition is a lack of role models and mentors in the workplace, as well as the absence of recognition. Right there, that part. I'm going to read it again because this article is fierce. The explanation given in this article for women's loss of ambition once we hit a peak is the lack of role models and mentors in the workplace, as well as the absence of recognition. This is true of not just women in the corporate world, it's true of entrepreneurs who start to build bigger companies. Because undervalued and without high-level support, many women lose their motivation to reach top leadership positions. They begin to question whether or not their ambition for the C-suite is even worth the effort. What once seemed like a compelling aspiration early in their career fades over time. And then when you add in, having children, getting married, it justifies why our ambition fades. Now, for those of you listening and that happened for you, I am not judging that. If that is real and in your values, great. But I can tell you that when I was in the corporate world, that was not true of me. I still wanted to have the ambition and the flexibility that I found that men could have while still growing my family and having a healthy marriage. And as a result of not feeling like I could have all of those things, I chose my ambition, which caused me to create poor relationships with my life, which is some of what I talked about in the last episode on connection. So despite these structural barriers and gender bias, there's only a small number of women that do make it to the C-suite. And this is a sad ass statistic, okay? Of all the positions in the S&P 500, there are less than 25 of those companies that has a woman CEO, which is only 5% of all companies in the United States, top companies in the United States. However, for women who start companies, founders and entrepreneurs, there's more of a greenfield opportunity. But that's also because many of us value autonomy and creating our own economy. So we've pursued that very unstatus quo path. Now, Women who own businesses with revenues over $1 million increased 46% compared to 12% for all U.S. businesses in the last decade, which is an impressive feat were it not for the fact that these businesses only make up 1.7% of all women firms. So what that means is, although we have increased our revenues of 1 million or more, that's only 1.7% of all the women. So that means there's so many women that are growing their companies, but they're still struggling to hit the 7-figure mark. And in Femfluence, we want to shift that. Here's some more stats that are pretty startling and interesting and makes the case for Femfluence. The stats that are part of the latest annual State of the Women-Owned Businesses report, which was commissioned by American Express, also found that women owned 12.3 million businesses in 2018, or 40% overall. So 60% are owned by men, 40% owned by women. The report also estimates that women are starting about 1,821 new U.S. businesses per day, which is a significant uptick from an average of 952 between 2012 and 2017. So basically, we've doubled. Now, the overall number of women-owned businesses have surged 3,000% since 1972. 3,000%! But also, did you know that before 1988, that wasn't that long ago, women needed a male cosigner to apply for bank loans, thus limiting access to capital for would-be female entrepreneurs. And those were white women. So it wasn't until even recently that women of color could do it without a male signature. Now let's take a closer look at these numbers, because it reveals that women entrepreneurs still have a long way to go. So even though if you stay in the corporate world, it's not like when you jump off the ship into entrepreneurship that there aren't challenges. In fact, it's even more challenging, because although women lead 4 in 10 businesses in the US, most are actually one-womanpreneur shows. So they're run by solopreneurs. And so that means even more so, these ambitious women need the resources and the connections to thrive. Their ventures make up about 8% of all employment and account for only 4.3% of total revenues. And women founders who apply for bank loans also receive about 45% less money than their male peers, according to a different study released earlier by Biz to Credit. So here's the cool thing. Don't get frustrated. Get clear. This is an opportunity if we connect and we celebrate ambition together. It's why we're here at Femfluence, because we want to be an additional resource and partner with other founders, funds, and futurists who are giving capital and access to capital and connections for women and mentors in money and missions for younger women who we needed when we were younger. We want to cultivate ambition in a healthy and accepted way to allow women to fully go for it in spite of the perceptions, beliefs, and judgments we've allowed to dictate our actions, or worse, our non-actions. Some of the ways we're doing this at Femfluence is things like the Femfluence Founders Dinners, where I invite like-minded, ambitious women who we ask to build longer tables with us. We had an inaugural one in San Diego that was such a success. We're going to start doing them across the country and then globally. So make sure if you want to be on that list, let me know at femfluence.com. We're also creating an online platform of coursework and creative projects where women can learn and connect in a bigger way by investing in their leadership. I'm also investing my own capital in developing an incubator for women to thrive through a pop-up experiment I'm calling HER-Q, H-E-R, the letter Q, which is a social co-working collective where we'll fund women-founded startups, give them a place to connect and work, and bring mentors and speakers who can pour into them. And then also producing connection events like the upcoming Femfluence Summit for Visionary Leaders. That's going to be happening in 2020. So make sure you're signed up again at femfluence.com to be notified whenever we open up these opportunities to connect in person. Sadly, one of the areas I've seen other women give a side eye to is in the area of sales. For a person who owns a business and also ran divisions in my corporate job, whose key performance metrics were tied to revenue, I've always known that part of being in a healthy business is to make sales, because No sales, no business. Barbara Corcoran from Shark Tank, when asked how she was so successful, says, and I'm going to be paraphrasing here, the most important role in my organization was sales. Those that did well were not just ambitious, they didn't let a no get them distracted or down. In fact, they used that no as fuel for momentum. Corcoran has also said that in order for her to expect her team to be good at it, she had to be good at it, and she needed to model that for her best people. For me, this is how I define sales. Sales is a dignified conversation that invites the person you're talking to take the step they say they want. Keywords they say they want. And if that's how I define sales and we define sales at Femfluence, then it's simply enrolling people into their own desires. And it's a huge leadership step for the person doing the enrolling. Unfortunately, because people don't know fully what their values are, they avoid engaging with ambitious women because they don't trust that they can say no. And I notice that women have a way harder time or get angry or resentful when a woman asks versus a man. I know that's generalization, but I've been in this industry for a long time. And based on the facts that I presented to you earlier, it is a pink slime that's an undercurrent inside of our work. That actually happened recently at an event I hosted. I was pink slimed. I said I would tell you a story of where I was pink slimed by somebody who I really cared about and was a fellow businesswoman. But they actually said that they didn't come to my event because she said, I'm afraid if I go, Jen's going to sell something to me. And also, she said that at another event that she was with me, she felt like everyone was attracted to me and that I ended up selling them into one of my programs. And I thought that was fascinating because I actually didn't sell anybody into my programs. I talked about what we did, and those people asked me, how do I work with you? What are some of the ways that you can work with your company? And when I found out later that she didn't come to one of the events that I was hosting, where I had brought together these amazing women who could have honestly helped her with so many connections. It was such an incredible event. I felt really sad. Sad for me and sad for her because I felt like, wow, where did we miss the boat on that? And it came down to becoming that ambitious women who also enroll people into their products, their services, their things are looked upon as aggressive. I just thought that was so fascinating. And yet this same woman that I know has only enrolled in programs and services facilitated by men. And again, I have so much respect for so many of the men in the industry. And at the same time, I just think it's fascinating. But this is why ambitious women need to stick together, because we can heal that shit if we overcome the inner conflict and societal pressures by not avoiding this conversation. I was afraid to have this conversation today because I know I'm going to ruffle some feathers and some of you aren't going to agree with me, or you're going to think that I'm overgeneralizing. But if what I'm saying isn't true, then I wish the facts would bring it up. I wish that the quest for gender equality in work was fixed. I wish it was true, but it's not. And I'm also saying, as I said in my last episode on connection, I'm not asking you to only take coin or give coin to other women. Absolutely not. What I'm saying is, are you looking for women who are qualified, especially women of color, especially women who are in the minority? Are you looking? Because they're out there. There's a lot of us. Hey, and I wonder if any of you have ever been in this situation or have actually acted or judged another ambitious woman because of these same pressures. I'm just trying to keep us awake here. Because I have to admit, I've done that. And this was one of the reasons that I founded Femfluence, because awakeness starts with awareness. Now, why do some women persist despite the barriers in front of us? Well, because this is where ambition is amazing for us. Because women who are ambitious have tremendous grit. We forgive ourselves faster than women who don't have the squad and the mentorship around them to lift them up. The answer is that these women who are ambitious own their stories. They have an unwavering belief in themselves and their ability to reach goals. They mitigate any distractions and allow themselves to transcend difficult challenges. They never take their eye off the end goal. And if that makes them masculine, I call bullshit. I call that ambition, a woman on a mission to make a change. That's why we as a collective should not diminish their ambition as a negative force simply because of gender. After all, again, where would the world be without Beyonce? Where would the world be without Marie Curie? Where would the world be without Oprah? Where would the world be without Michelle Obama? It's easy for those of us on the sidelines to criticize women in the spotlight. Their vulnerability stems from the passion they have for their mission. And every day, that same ambition is helping us break through glass ceilings and societal expectations. So I want to invite you to support their courage and conviction and step into it with us and recognize that ambitious women are changing the farking world, okay? So how can we do that better? Well, as usual, I have a worksheet to support you with that. Number one, I want you to think about a time growing up where you were told, be what you want to be. And then, was there a moment after that where you started to not believe it? Write and journal about that moment. After recognizing it, say out loud, I release my connection to my worth from that moment. And ask my ambition to serve me instead of stop me. Ask my ambition to serve me instead of stop me. Third, I want you to think about ambitious women you admire. What are the qualities you'd like to embody and model? What are the qualities you feel a twinge of envy around? Because both of those are very eye-opening. So what do we do next as a collective? Well, number one, I want you to think about and be sensitive and aware to the gender and racial bias associated with powerful women. I hope I've opened your eyes to some of that in this episode. Try to find a balance between being nurturing and giving, and then at the same time, being willing to give clear direction and hold people accountable. We can be both. We can be nurturing and lead people while being clear. Also, use your emotional intelligence to know when taking a hard line is appropriate and when to demonstrate empathy and compassion. Again, both possible. And finally, use values-driven living as a guide to making decisions without feeling guilty or shitty about them, including ways to grow without worrying if you're hurting people. Because women of integrity and authenticity who are ambitious too deserve their goals. Now, I get asked a lot about the concept of values-driven living, especially in the first couple episodes where I opened up this podcast with them. And mainly how I use them to navigate what I call my crazy, beautiful life. So I'm going to dive deeper on all of that in the next episode. So make sure you set your calendars when it drops. Thanks for listening to Femfluence Radio. If you resonated with this episode, please leave us a review and let other women know about it. Remember, we're building longer tables here. Follow us on Instagram at femfluence_official to stay in the conversation, and also visit femfluence.com to sign up and receive things I only give to our listeners and friends. I look forward to our next chat.